Okay, we're going to be continuing our look at Romans 1, verses 18 to 32. And specifically, now we're going to look at a pattern that we see in the second part of Romans 1, which is essentially this three-part pattern that contains over and over again three times probably the most terrifying words in Scripture, and that's God gave them over. And let's see why he did and what that means for all of humanity. So here's the three-part pattern. So notice these three things that kind of align with each other. So three times we're going to see this pattern, and three ways we're going to kind of see the same thing said over again. So first of all, claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images. And this corresponds to because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worship and serve the creature rather than the creator. And then that's also going to correspond to the third time Paul reiterates it, and since they did not see fit to acknowledge God. So these three things all result in God giving them up. Therefore God gave them up. For this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions. And since they did not see fit to acknowledge God, God gave them up to a debased mind to do what ought not to be done. So exchanging the glory of God, therefore God gave them up in the lust of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their body among themselves. And again, we see because they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, for this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions. For their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And the men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another, men committing shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. So there it is. We see here Paul condemning the homosexuality as God leaving them alone because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie. And when you worship and serve creation rather than the creator, the creature, when you're looking at yourself as opposed to your creator, and God gives you up to that and leaves you alone to yourself, the natural result of that, when you're looking at creatures rather than the creator, you become consumed with a passion for one another, committing shameless acts with men. And there's a lot of controversy about this phrase, and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. So some people interpret this to be that AIDS or sexually transmitted diseases are judgment on homosexuality or same-sex attraction. And don't think that's the weight of what Paul is saying here. I think the error is up here, the exchanging of the truth about God for a lie, and therefore God gave them up. And so I think this is saying that same-sex attraction is the due penalty that they received in themselves for the error of ignoring God. So our acting out of sin, either dishonoring our bodies or same-sex attraction or everything we see in this list over here, that is the judgment of God. That is the wrath of God being poured out, is him leaving us alone to ourselves. And look what happens, just evil. And so don't be proud if you're not in this list or this list, because nobody escapes this list. And so if this is here, it's evidence that you didn't see fit to acknowledge God in your own life. I didn't see fit to acknowledge God. So my envy, my strife, my maliciousness, my murderous heart, all of that stems from me not acknowledging God, not seeing fit to acknowledge God, because I don't want a God in my knowledge. And because of that, I get given over to what ought not to be done. When God gives you up, that is a terrifying thing. When he leaves you alone and leaves you to yourself, we need the full weight of this to rest on us, so that we realize that without God, all we have is gossip, slandering, haters of God, insolent, haughty, boastful, inventing evil, disobedient, foolish, faithless, heartless, ruthless.